Hello, folks. Welcome back to Three's In. Uh, Sometimes when I tell a story, it usually generates about three or four more follow on stories, and this is the case from the story I told yesterday about the tribute to the king. I don't know why I wasn't stationed there, but it seems like the guys at Columbus, the T 38 IPs, were free spirits, and man, did they have a good time most of the time. This is a story of one of those times where it perhaps wasn't so good. In 1978, I was assigned to headquarters flight safety down at Randolph Air Training Command. And my bases of responsibility at the time were Columbus, Vance, and Williams Air Force Base. So every morning I'd get the message traffic from those bases. I'd get in about 7:30, and there'd be a stack of message traffic on my desk if there was anything to report overnight. So this one morning, I come walking in, and didn't think much about anything. Just a normal day, like any other day. So I sit down, start going through my message traffic, and I look at this. The subject of this one, it says blown tire on landing. Okay, it happens, and I thought, geez, that's a little bit strange because that's not usually a reportable incident. Blown tires, a blown tire, a guy comes to a stop, they come out, put another wheel on and tow them off or whatever. But anyway, as I started reading into it, I started getting more and more interested in it because as they started reporting the damage, it went beyond the tire. It went into the wheel. What had happened is during the landing, the instructor had gotten on the brakes so hard, yeah, it did blow the tires, blown tire on landing, but it also started grinding down the wheels until they looked like half moons, the main landing gear. Okay, there's got to be more to this story than meets the eye. So I went in and talked to my boss, and we started looking at it, and he said, well, why don't you call him and see if you can find out what happened. So I called the safety office, and it took a little time, but I finally got to the bottom of the story. What had happened is these 8 IPs went out on a weekend cross country. They had a flyby at SeaWorld or some damn thing like that. And then they went over to Patrick Air Force Base this day. And when they showed up at Patrick, they lined up on initial for landing, line abreast, kind of like this formation you see here, line abreast. We typically, in the 38, would fly initial at 1,500 feet, 300 knots, in an echelon formation, like this formation, where you have lead, 2, 3, and 4, kind of like that. Lead would pitch out. 2 counts 4 seconds, then he pitches out. 3, 4 seconds, then he goes, and then 4 goes after 4 seconds. Well, in this case, apparently what had happened is these guys lined up line abreast coming up initial. You had lead, 2, 3, and 4. And at the pre-designated time, lead and 4 pitched out. Now, opposite directions. Now, why would you do that? For the life of me. But anyway, then 8 seconds later, 2 and 3 pitched out. So they pitched out, and then in the final turn is where it got exciting. Lead and 4 rejoined in the final turn for a formation landing. So these guys are coming in opposite directions like this, and then they join up and land. Well, as it turned out, number 3, when he came around the corner, he was a little bit behind number 2. Well, hell, he didn't want to make the formation look bad, so he tapped a burner to join up on 3 or 2. And he caught him. The problem is he caught him just as they entered the overrun with too much, and he had too much overtake. But he stuck with it, stayed with it, and they touched down. At that time, number 3 was going the speed of heat. When he caught 2 like that, he didn't just catch him, he started sliding ahead of him, but he went ahead and put it on the ground anyway. went into the aero brake, and he's really smoking down the runway now. And now, when he lowers his nose, he sees these tailpipes of number 4 right in front of him. So he gets on the brakes and just mashes them for all they're worth, and blows both tires and starts grinding down the wheels to where they eventually came out like half moons. Now, why would you do that? I don't know. You know, we could have so much fun in the T-38 just by itself. It really was a great airplane to fly, a great airplane to instruct in. But I digress. Let me get back to the story. So they hauled these guys in, started taking statements from them and so forth, and 7 of them claimed they didn't know what the hell happened. Just didn't understand what happened. How could this happen? They're just 2 normal formation landings. Well, as they got to digging into it a little bit more, they found out it was more than just formation landings. They found out about that line abreast formation, which was totally illegal. Of course, as I indicated earlier, at that time, Air Training Command guidance on flying the T-38 had gravitated to, instead of a manual, it was more or less a pamphlet. And if it didn't say you couldn't specifically do something, it was interpreted that you probably could. Well, they took the line of thought, well, nothing says we can't do that other than common sense. But anyway, what had happened then is one guy eventually turned state's evidence, and eventually the story came out. They did get whacked a little bit. I don't know exactly what the punishment was. In flight safety, that wasn't our business. Our business was to see what happened during an accident and see what we could do to prevent it from happening again. In this case, where we found it was a kind of borderline flying violation, we took it and handed it over to the operations folks and put the ball in their court. Anyway, the feedback I got is after or during the statements, the guy that turned state's evidence, when they finished taking his statement, they asked him, do you have anything else to say? And he says, oh, not really. He said, I just can't understand yet what happened. He said, yesterday when we practiced it, it came out fine. Oh, God. At any rate, just another story. I've got another one for you here later on. Take care.